Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, hi Rich, how are you?
Oh, well. How is everyone today?
Doing all
good.
right. How are you doing?
Cool. Very well. I'll just give it a few more minutes to let people have the opportunity to join. This meeting really is and will be a catch-up. Everyone's been busy, it seems, from the Slack channel, doing some research into various different techniques, looking at scientific papers who try and do the same thing, and what kind of metrics they use, what kind of models they're using. Are they using custom models, or they experiment with transfer learning? So we can discuss various different techniques or anything interesting anyone has discovered during those experimentations. And the Saturday, that's generally a more formal kind of meeting. Every task in our project ends, has a week, so we'll end on the Saturday, and the Saturday will allow us to, the team leads and the co-leads present the work they've done the previous week. So what have we got? 16. Okay, so what I'm going to do this week, I've been having a think about how we can tackle this project. Should we do it as one big group, or should we do it in different teams who will try different experiments? And I think that is probably, splitting us into teams is probably the best way to go. We could cover a lot more ground, and there'll be a lot more experiments to talk about. There'll be a lot more techniques to talk about as well. So after this meeting, I will put together a Google Sheet, and I'll send that out. And the Google Sheet will consist of two pages. The first one will be people who want to volunteer for task leads of a particular team or co-leads of a particular team. Now, the task lead, it's preferential that someone with a little bit more experience in the computer vision or medical world. That's probably better for them type of people. It's not a strict rule by any sense of the imagination. So if you're a beginner or intermediate and fancy being responsible for the work of a particular team, put your name down. And the co-leads, someone from beginners to intermediate skill levels, are probably best suited for the co-lead. They support the task lead, putting together the code, maybe taking some ideas from the rest of the group, and I'm filtering that down to the task lead who can incorporate that into the work. So yeah, it's a good opportunity to learn, and it's a good opportunity to sort of manage a team and project manage in a way. And on the Saturday, the task lead and the co-lead will basically go through what they've been able to achieve through the week. People will be able to ask questions about what they've done, if there's any sort of points that may be a little bit vague. And also, I forgot what the third point, the second point I was going to make. But yeah, so the task leads and co-leads responsible for Saturday to inform us all what's been going on. Now, in terms of the teams, I was thinking, and please let me know your thoughts, of splitting the group into 4 different teams. Like team 1 will use a custom model built from scratch, maybe a convolutional neural network, or a vision transformer, however they decide to whatever method they decide to take. And they will build that model with image augmentations. Team number 2 will do a custom model, and they will build it to however they want, but without data augmentation. They'll just input the images directly. And team 2 and 3 will be the same setup, except both of them teams will use transfer learning. They could use ResNet 50s, They could use was it the VGG 116 and things like that, so they can incorporate their models. YOLO, I heard someone mention, they used it on another a project which seemed to be quite effective. Oais, you've got a suggestion regarding team splitting. Go ahead.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so after the kickoff meeting the other day, I was browsing the internet, just looking for resources on the project, and uh, I found this paper. I'm pretty sure I have shared it in the channel. And so the paper was basically taking a traditional machine learning approach towards a solution. And then I kind of generated my own roadmap for the project, which was inspired from that paper. But I also incorporated a deep learning into that approach. So I was thinking that if we could split into two teams, and the one team will work on the traditional machine learning algorithms, and the other team will be working on the deep learning algorithm. I have also prepared a slide about it. It's just a single slide, so
Yeah,
uh,
please share. You should have the opportunity to share your
yeah,
screen.
yeah,
So
okay.
please.
Mm, yeah. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is basically a screenshot from the paper that I was talking about. So they use the same data set that we will be using. Um, and so I will just quickly go over the steps. So that have taken the data set and then did some pre-processing on it. I think they have only done like cropping in the pre-processing stage. Um, and then they have used the pre-trained VGG16. I think they have used the ResNet model to extract features from the images. And then once they have extracted the features, they converted those features into a pandas data frame, the feature vectors into a traditional pandas data frame, and then just performed traditional machine learning algorithm, classification algorithm on that data frame. So then I was thinking, so I made this roadmap. So let's say we have the same data set, and we do the pre-processing and the feature extraction. So up to this point, it's the same as the paper has done it. But after this, um, we can convert the features into a pandas data frame and perform traditional machine learning on it, or we can just uh, take the feature extractions, and without converting them into a pandas data frame, we can feed it to a neural network and make predictions on it. So yeah, so I was just saying that if we split into two teams, and the first team work on the traditional machine learning approach, and the second team take the deep learning approach. But that's
Yep.
just my suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. Having 4 teams, as I mentioned earlier, trying slightly different things is probably more difficult to manage really and keep up with everything. But I think splitting the teams into 2, traditional ML with feature extraction, and treating it as a normal, standard classification task sounds like a good idea. And of course, yeah, I think treating it as a standard computer vision deep learning sort of project is also a good idea as well. And we can compare the two. The paper that you shared was quite interesting. I've read it. I can't remember when it was published, but I was quite surprised that they didn't use any gradient boosted trees on it. Maybe it was done before they really took off. So it would be interesting because they've used some pretty good algorithms. I mean, of course, they used a random forest, but no one was using a gradient boost, cap boost or XG boost and whatnot. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. Does anyone have any thoughts about that?
In the paper, they have also they haven't used image augmentation, which I also found pretty interesting because the data set is biased, as we have discussed in the previous meeting.
Yeah.
So it's also it will be an edge for us to perform image augmentation. Maybe we can improve the results.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, not every sort of image augmentation is equal. Some can be more effective than others. It's quite a skill in itself to sort of narrow down what works and what doesn't work. I think cropping is essential because there's a lot of black space on the images, which may won't provide any sort of information to a model. So I think cropping is the number one. But then as we've discussed in the Slack channel, there's hundreds of different augmentations. Yeah, TensorFlow, PyTorch, they already support quite a number of these. But there is Python packages out there that can increase sharpness, they can change the colors, and all kinds of things like that. So that will be part of the experimentation as well. I would recommend maybe having 3 different experiments using different kinds of crop, and ones that alter the image in terms of like its dimension, so horizontal flips and things like that, and others another one that maybe change the coloring and the sharpness and things like that. So that might be an idea as well for each of the teams. But yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. Always we can split it into 2, and each team can follow it through a more conventional method, and another one follow it through a deep learning convolution method or transform, or whatever they deem necessary. I'm in agreement on that. Neville, you raise your hand.
Yeah, I think the 2 teams is actually a good idea as well. And
Cool.
But also as I said, like it should also be based on the number of members. Since if you have like 30 people, then if you split into 2, like there'll be a lot in one team, in each team.
Yeah.
So I guess it will also be better to give specific roles to each person. And like, to be honest, you don't really need 15 people developing one model, or
Yeah.
like
No,
each
yeah.
person can have their own role and play their part in it.
Yeah, absolutely right. So I can create a Google sheet. We need a task lead and a co-lead. Absolutely. They're a given. And also, we can open that up and say which team, if there's, people who are intermediate, what team do you want to go on? What kind of things are you good at? Is there, what kind of roles would be best suited for you? In terms of beginners though, who have never done computer vision before, I wouldn't necessarily force them in a particular team or on a particular task. I think having the option to float between the 2 groups and see how people are tackling the problem is also beneficial. We had something we pretty much done that on a previous task, and I think we split into 4 teams because there was a number of different angles of attack that we could solve the problem, and each there was maybe 10 people on each team who were working on that specific challenge alone, but then the beginners were joining that team's meetings just to see what was going on and how it was handled, and then maybe the next day going into another team's meeting and see what they were doing, and having a broad range of experience and observations of the different teams. I think it was beneficial to the beginners based on the feedback that I got anyway. I actively encourage beginners to get involved, ask questions, ask, why are we setting a dropout layer, or whatever the question may be. I think it's important to, have the beginners ask them sorts of questions, whether or not they make, they contribute to the final model is, slightly irrelevant, but it would be better if they did. Maybe, I don't know, they were responsible for doing some image augmentation or something on the initial stages. Get involved as much as you can. That's how you're going to learn. But I think having the option for very beginners to float between teams is also a good choice. As I say, the more information they get, the better data scientist you're going to be.
Yeah,
Okay,
I agree on that. Yeah, I
cool.
think that having the beginners put more involved, that will be
Yeah.
better for them.
Yeah,
And also,
that's
just one more point.
oh yeah, go
yeah,
on. Sorry, Neville.
Yeah, actually, the thing is, I've noticed that I've worked with a lot of image data, and I've noticed that sometimes data augmentation can probably lead to a worse result.
Yep.
So I think we should also be aware of that fact that we don't really need a lot of our data augmentation, since
Absolutely.
most of the data is pretty much processed. We just need a few minor improvements.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. However, it might be a good learning experience to make the model perform badly, and we can show a beginner how we figure out why that model's performed badly. Have we done too much data augmentation and whatnot? So that's the thing. Each team, I hope, will have a couple of different experiments, and it will really sort of illustrate, the strengths and weaknesses of doing certain tasks within that mainframe. I know in reality, if you're working a real job in industry, you know a lot of augmentation is going to have a negative effect, so you generally don't. But we need to show beginners why that is, and I think having a couple of different experiments purposely designed to be wrong is a good idea as well, just so people can get a more a deeper understanding of why that is. But yeah, you're absolutely correct, Neville. Absolutely. Arsen, I think it was your hand next, if that's how you pronounce your name.
Yes, Rich, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Hello, everyone. So actually, I'm a student of BS Artificial Intelligence. It's my last year. Actually, I have done some research projects with my professor. And recently, I was working on a knee ACL diagnosis in which we have used semantic segmentation and derived a new method for the production of semantic masks. And unfortunately, due to some technicalities, our paper is under review. So, but I can share my experience as well. So, I want to say that I have looked the data, and as far as I know, it is better that than that we can use the semantic segmentation methods like UNet and ResNet UNet and some hybrid approaches as well, like VGG UNet and some other frameworks as well. And I want to say that to use the YOLO, as we know that it has a specific format. In order to use that, we need some specific bounding boxes and its dimensions and labels. So I think it will be a constraint for us to label that data in order to use the YOLO format.
Yeah, I agree. So them sort of things, I mean, if we were working in industry, we'd have all the time in the world kind of thing, but unfortunately we don't. But I agree with them sentiments, and yeah, I think your experience will be a valuable contribution to whatever team you decide to, you want to work on. I would recommend the transfer learning one, because I think that might be, your experience would line up really well with that. But yeah, that's the thing. We need to run as many experiments as possible for the benefits of understanding for people without as much experience as you, for example. But yeah, absolutely look forward to seeing that them sorts of experiments as well. Cool.
So, Rich, I want to add that when we were experimenting different techniques, so we went through transfer learning and or data augmentation and like ResNet 50, ResNet, even ResNet 152, which is the latest version of ResNet. But we didn't have much accuracy. So we were trying to find the new version that that might best for our problem. So and then we decided that the masking thing is very good for the accurate predictions. So in order, I think that for the medical images, rather than using the real image processing, we can go for the semantic segmentations.
Mm.
But the only constraint we have is we don't have the masks and the labels. That's the
Yeah,
only thing. So in order
yeah,
to get better accuracies and better results, we can go for that thing. But as we know that it might take some time and effort. So I think that's the main approach. But as someone already suggested that we can use for deep learning and machine learning simple techniques as well for the feature extraction and then learning images from that, and it can also work as well.
hmm
So I think that this is from my side.
yeah. Cool. I think as well the sort of traditional route by extracting the features, creating a data frame out of the feature information. In the paper as well, they use, if I remember off the top of my head, principal component analysis. They use recursive elimination as well. So that it's not only, you're not only learning how to use transfer learning, you're also using some techniques that are very important in traditional machine learning as well. That are used quite often in sort of tabular machine learning, shall I say, rather than vision. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, definitely. Kieran, you had your hand up next, I think.
Yeah, right. Hello to everyone. I am Kiran, and basically I'm a experienced software programmer working in computer vision and machine learning from past 10 years. I had few suggestions and few questions to ask with regarding to the project. Suggestions would be that for beginners, we can start up with the traditional machine learning methods. We can give them tasks with respect to traditional machine learning methods like SVM or KNN, etc., etc. And we can see how the output will be. And of course, as you said, Rich, they can float around different teams. That was a good idea. Uh, but with respect to the CNN models, we can go for transfer learning, or what we can do is we can exchange weights also, weight files created by different CNN methods, and that would be a kind of transfer learning also between
Yep.
teams and try to improve the accuracy.
Well, that's it.
With,
Yep.
that's one thing. And with respect to the question I want to ask is, uh, with respect to the lymphoblast, uh, the actual method which they use to find the cancerous cells, or if you want to say a patient is having a cancer, is based on the percentage of the lymphoblast cells. That's if you go above 20%, they say that you have got cancer or leukemia, etc., etc. But we are actually looking at what I saw with respect to the data sets is just with respect to cells. We are trying to differentiate between each and every cell here. So I was a little confused with respect to that. Any doctor or any person with respect to the biology can explain that would be a nice idea.
Yeah. So as far as I know, in terms of the data set has been verified by an oncology expert. The data set's being used in a number of different papers as well. So the only sort of opinion we have on that is what's in the validation set. There is a CSV file, and it gives you various different information about each image and what the diagnosis is. To support the understanding about the sort of diagnosis process and how machine learning is also incorporated into the, I don't think it's very mainstream at the moment to my knowledge, but I'm not the oncology expert. So what I'm trying to organize, if the diary allows, is an actual oncology expert who uses these kind of techniques, who is, knows about lymphoblastic leukemia and whatnot, to come and talk to us for an hour, tell us how, what the usual diagnosis looks like, what validates a positive or negative diagnosis in terms of the like microscopic electro what's it called, like EM and TEM diagnosis as well. What kind of things are they looking for and whatnot? Hopefully I can get them in as soon as possible, but as you can probably imagine, an oncology expert, his time is very valuable, but I'm trying my best to get them in so we can get more context about the diagnosis process, what kind of things they look for, and also as well try and, we've got a test data set there which basically is unlabeled, and if we can make predictions on maybe 20 of them, not too many, because you'll have to go through them, and if we say 5 of them are positives and the rest are negative, is it possible for you to verify that in some way, or would you, in your expert opinion, sort of agree with that with a high level of confidence? That's what I'm planning to do. So because I know this is a diagnosis project, but we're not necessarily concerned with the background. We just want to see if we can diagnose these images so that we already have a labeled data set, and we want to see if we can get as high as a higher recall and accuracy and whatnot with that. But I'm definitely going to try and get this expert in as soon as I can. So hopefully that will clear up a lot of questions around the sort of diagnostic process and how these images came to be and whatnot, if that helps, Kieran.
Hey, thank you, Rich. That would be a great thing to do. Thank you.
No problem. Cheers. Ruksha, you've got your hand up as well.
So I have a question about the first presentation here. So
Yeah.
Does the paper have any code for the paper that used, I guess, ResNet to extract features and then use various forms of machine learning models to predict leukemia? So is there a GitHub repository available for that paper?
You know what? I haven't seen one. It wasn't on the paper. Always, do you know if there was at all?
No, so the code for the paper is not provided on the link, but I have found helpful material regarding to the transfer learning and all those tips. So if you are interested, I can share it with you on Slack.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
that would
Because
be
I know
great.
some certain academic bodies and whatnot, they might have like a non-disclosure of that kind of code because it belongs to them. Basically, that's what I've found as well. But we can, I doubt it's going to be too complex to replicate it. And if you've already got a GitHub or a repository that mimics it, that I think that should be enough. But I'll have a look into a little bit more into that. It might be even an idea to reach out to the authors. A lot of the time, I've tried to implement papers that haven't provided the code, and I was able to reach out to the author, and they were more than happy to share that with me, or share a edited version that doesn't sort of identify anything and things like that, which was safe to get round a non-disclosure kind of thing. Might be worth it. But yeah, I think looking from the comments that are in the channel at the moment, I think the 2-team idea always is really quite popular, and I think we should do that because, as you said, it shows both sides of the coin. Then you've got the sort of transfer learning, traditional machine learning technique to build a nice classifier, and then we've got the deep learning method as well. Convolutional neural networks built from scratch too. And I think Kieran's idea of maybe sharing the weights between the 2 teams as well to see if they can improve each other's models is also an interesting idea as well. It's not a competition. It doesn't matter if one team does better than the other. We're using completely different techniques. But I think when we come together during the end of the project, we can select. We've done a lot of experimentation. We've got a lot of potential models, and it'll be great to select the highest performer one to try and develop into an app, a website, or whatever we think is appropriate. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let me just run up the channel just to see if there's any questions or anything. Kieran, accuracy of the traditional ML approach is low, but learning from it will be good for beginners. That's the point. Do you know what I mean? It is a good point. It might not be the most effective way to do things, but it'll certainly be a good learning experience. That's what we're here for. Okay. Sabine, is that how you pronounce your name? I missed the project kickoff meeting. Is the data set available or should we collect it? The data set is pinned in the problem statement channel. It's currently sat on a Google Drive. You can transfer it over to your personal one, or you can just, because you'll have access to that, you can draw that into Google Colab as well. If you don't know how to do that, there's a couple of tutorials on Google how to mount your Drive in Google Colab, and also Rushcart has provided a notebook with how to do it as well. That is in the knowledge sharing channel. Okay. Let me just scroll down. Yeah.
I want to
Cool.
say something here.
Yep.
The thing is, the dataset is actually pretty large. It's about 11 and 12 gigabytes, but your Google Drive is only about 15 gigabytes limit. So be careful
Okay.
about the memory requirements because this dataset is pretty big. So what
Yeah.
I would suggest is that just to use a small portion of the dataset, for example, only use fold 0 and use that for like experimentation. And if you find some model that's to your liking, then maybe after that you can upload your whole data and then you can train it on that.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was just typing. I'll just say it. Manasseh, yeah, there is a GitHub. I again hit my daily invite limit, but I believe Manasseh, your email was in the invite that I did send out yesterday. I'm going to do some more today and hit my limit. It's quite frustrating, but I have to invite everyone individually. But I think I'm probably about 3/4 of the way in. I've invited the email that you've signed up for this project for. If you have a check your spam as well, because sometimes it goes to your spam. And if you click the link in the invite and you're not logged in, it says it can't find the repository. So make sure you're logged in before you hit the accept invitation link. It can be quite a pain, but I think so far most of you will be invited. If you use GitHub but you don't use the email that you've signed up with, in chat just DM me your GitHub username or the email that you use for GitHub and I'll invite you as well. It takes time, but those who have access to it already, on Saturday, what we're going to do, anyone who's done any sort of experimentation with image augmentation, any sort of research about how other people have tackled these kind of problems, it's an opportunity to present them to the group. So if you've got a notebook or anything, upload it to the GitHub, and on Saturday you can share it with the team and just walk us through what you've done and what you think, and has that give you any sort of inspiration of how you want to tackle this challenge. And then from the second week, that's when we actually, between the two teams, we can finalize them two teams and we can then start building the model from scratch. And that's when the real fun begins. Rushka, you raise your hand.
Oh, I was just ask that when will you like open the Slack channels for like DOS 0, 1, 2, 3, 4?
Well, I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna open two. Well, I'm not gonna split it into tasks because I know it's generally quite iterative anyway. I'm gonna give two channels, one for team 1 and one for team 2, to organize all their work in it, and we will sort of keep check on the timeline with our meetings. We do have the project timeline and what we're meant to be doing in each sort of week. Some of them weeks can be a bit of a gray area where one task rolls into another and things like that. So yeah, it's just a case of keeping an eye on ourselves rather than splitting into formal channels. I think having the sort of platform to be a bit creative and go back and change things, and it'll be a bit easier and easy to manage if we just have two channels with team 1 and team 2 in to discuss their own work. And it also gives opportunities, if beginners want to hop in different channels, join different team meetings and things like that, it's a lot easier as well, rather than going through 8 different channels to try and keep up on things.
What will team 1 and team 2 will do? What are their
Well,
responsibilities?
yeah,
And
well,
how
team
are
one,
they different?
well, team one are going to use a traditional sort of approach in terms of deep learning. They're going to use, things like a convolutional neural network to build a model. Team two are going to use transfer learning and extract features and then apply traditional classifiers to that information. And then we can compare the performance of the two models and, and see if which one comes out on top, basically. But I'm not limiting the, any team to a specific set of models that they need to use. Getting performance out of machine learning models, especially in computer vision, can take a little bit of creativity as well. So it'll be interesting to see what we come up with. So yeah, that's generally team one are going to be looking at sort of traditional methods after feature extract. Team one are going to be using traditional sort of deep learning algorithms for computer vision, convolutional neural networks, vision transformers, or whatever they decide they want to do and experiment with. While team two will be strictly on transfer learning, feature extraction and whatnot. So that's how it's going to be set up. I'm going to release a Google Sheet where you can nominate yourself as a co-lead or a task lead, and they will be the head of each team. And then anyone else who anyone else can put their name down for whatever team they want to work on mostly, or and then the beginners can float between two teams. I think that's the best way, and I think it was a good idea what Oasis suggested. Okay, there's two hands raised. Pranjal, is that your correct pronunciation?
Yes. Just a quick question. So we can participate in both teams at the same time, right?
Yeah, I mean the task leads and co-leads will be responsible for the team's output, but generally, I would suggest that if you want to work, try and gain some insight from both teams. Both sort of methods will be very interesting, especially to intermediate and beginners. There's no strict teams. Just do what you can, contribute where you think you can, and learn from the rest of the team. Of course, there's going to be some people who will prefer to stick working on one particular problem, and that's absolutely fine. But if you're if you've never used computer vision before, if you are very new to machine learning, even the most, even the rudimentary kind of classification tasks, feel free to bounce between teams and work in and try and ask questions about whatever you feel necessary. The only sort of strict roles are the task lead and the co-lead, who will be, sort of heading that team. They'll be like the sort of the lead machine learning engineer, shall we say, if that makes sense. Cool. Vivian, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's right. I
Cool.
have a question. So for both teams, right, we're still based on Away's paper that he posted in the knowledge sharing channel, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're not bound by that paper. They don't use, a number of different algorithms that we can potentially use. And there's a million different ways we can construct a neural network, for example. We're not bound by what they've done at all. We can do whatever we please, but I think the idea of the two teams was inspiration from that paper because they've handled it. They've tried two different kind of methods, and I think that would be a good avenue for us to explore. But obviously, we can see if we can beat them in it by using techniques that they haven't employed. But it was just, I think it was more of an inspirational choice rather than replicating the paper, because we don't want to replicate the paper. We want to see if we can beat it and use methods that they haven't.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Has anyone else got any questions at all? We've only got 30 seconds left, so I can refresh this if need be. But what I'm gonna reiterate is that I'm gonna put out a Google Sheet shortly. Put your name down as a co-lead or a task lead if you want to, and put your name down on whatever team you're interested in, and we can go from there and start working on. And I'll tell you what, I'll refresh this meeting because we're on 10 seconds. There's just a little bit I want to talk about the sort of setup on Saturday. So please refresh. Thanks for coming back, everyone. So Saturday, what the plan for Saturday is, everyone who, the initial week is basically exploring the data. It's taken a look at different techniques, different scientific papers that have maybe done something that we have. And so Saturday is going to be a sort of presentation about what people have found. I know there's been a lot of activity in the knowledge sharing channel, and we've had some great notebooks produced. We've had scientific papers shared, and just to really reaffirm that knowledge that we've gained already about the task at hand, there's an opportunity for people to present their findings, any sort of little experiments that they've done, talk about any sort of interesting Python packages they've found, any interesting scientific papers they've found, or anything, just information about selecting the correct sort of evaluation metric and things like that may be of use to us. That's what the opportunity is today. It's it's a little bit more formal than this one, but it's generally quite informal anyway. If you'd like to, have 5 minutes or so talking about what you've done, just drop me a message and I'll schedule that in, just to make sure, we haven't got, 30 people all trying to tell us what they've done, kind of thing. But yeah, that's what the general plan is on Saturday. And then we will discuss, we will have the teams confirmed by then, because I'll send out the Google Sheet today, and we can then start working towards the goal of the project. Rushka, you've got your hand raised.
Oh, yes. So I have one simple and small question, is that what is the final goal of this project? Because in the kickoff meeting, you were talking about like creating some sort of web app. Today, you just mentioned that you wanted to beat the current research papers. So is this going to be more oriented towards beating the current research papers to write another paper? Or is it about creating a web app that would, come in handy for doctors?
It's about creating the web app. It's the deployment part as well, because this is like an end-to-end sort of project. It's more, the goal is to create an app that can be useful.
Your mic is off.
I always forget to unmute. Even now, 3 years after working from home, and I still forget to unmute. But what I was saying is that the fundamental goal is the deployment. It's an end-to-end project, so we want to have some sort of deployment at the end, which can, other users can, maybe take some sample images and upload it and get a prediction and whatnot. In terms of the paper, me and Salman were talking about potentially writing a paper, but it's not really a priority whatsoever. It's probably just, some sort of wishful thinking kind of thing. I think having, a scientific paper that's already dealt with this type of image data, the exact same data set, I think it's good to sort of set a baseline on that, see what they've done, and see what we can do, if we can do anything different to generally outperform them. That is not part of the project. It wasn't intended to be part of the project. That's just something that has just come to our attention, and I think it's, a good little sort of project challenge, but it isn't sort of part of the official project. It's not going to be an end result. It would literally only give us bragging rights at the end of the project. Do you know what I mean? It's not really necessary. It's probably just for our own ego, really. But yeah, the ultimate goal is to have some sort of deployment. We can decide what, I think 2 weeks from the end, we decide to talk about the deployment development. So that's when we can really go over whether it'd be better suited as a sort of web app, just for demonstration purposes, or if someone's skilled in creating mobile phone apps, you know, these are the kind of things that we'll have to talk about closer to the time. But as long as we can demonstrate that we are able to have, you know, some sort of deployment, that will do it for the project. Anything else is a bonus, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Cool. Neville, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if anyone else has faced this problem, but I don't have institution access for accessing some papers. There's actually a really cool website for accessing any paper. You can just copy paste the DOI. If anyone's interested, I can just put it on the chat. It's called Sci-Hub.
Yeah, I actually read a LinkedIn post about Sci-Hub recently. I think the owner is a Russian lady who is now being sued by someone. So yeah, because she gave access, because she said, you know, education should be free to all and that. And, you know, I agree with that sentiment, but yeah, Sci-Hub's good. And also there's one 12foot.io, I think it is 12ft.io, and that gets around some paywalls, sorry, and that can be quite useful as well if you're reading sort of Medium articles and whatnot. But, you know, I suggest you should always help the author, but, you know, especially if you're, you know, it can help if you're looking for information. You don't want to pay, you know, $100 for it or whatnot. But yeah, share that, and hopefully we can find some more interesting papers. But yeah, but Saturday, that's what, you know, that's what I want to talk about. It's a good opportunity to discuss your research with others and just share ideas between ourselves, and hopefully we can take them ideas and that research into the next week, where each team will begin processing their images and, you know, creating a roadmap of how they're going to solve this problem that we have. So yeah, so that's what we've got on Saturday. So if you want to present anything in a more formal setting, DM me your name. I'll make sure that you're on the list and we can go through that. And I would recommend, if you are a beginner, to attend that Saturday meeting, because it will be you know, there will be a mass amount of knowledge, a mass amount of experience being shared between us all. And it'll be a great opportunity to ask questions to anyone on the team as well who has a good amount of experience or has done a good amount of research as well. So it's definitely worth attending on Saturday. But yeah, okay, so just finishing remarks, just so we know what's happening. I'm going to send out a Google Sheet. If you want to be a co-lead, if you want to be a task lead, write your name down, volunteer yourself, and I will select them at random. When you write your name down, just in brackets, put your level of experience as well. Just so, just because, as I said, the task leads are generally aimed for someone with intermediate to an advanced level, a high level of experience, just because they're going to be, you know, responsible for the team's output. Co-leads are generally beginner to intermediate. Just so it's a better learning experience as well, and you know, you're going to be basically the project manager, you know, assistant project manager basically, and gathering everyone's insights, feeding it back to the task lead, who can then, you know, build something from them suggestions, and also be responsible for hosting team calls. By all means, host your own calls on Google Meet, do it on Zoom, just share the links into the meeting room if you're having a team meeting live, and you know, that'll give other people opportunity who are maybe not on your team, or you know, are beginners who are floating between teams, to a chance to listen in and ask any questions that they may have. They don't necessarily have to be recorded, but if you do want to record them, please do, and send me the link and I'll get them on my YouTube channel as well. But they don't necessarily have to be recorded. Ruksha?
So I wanted to ask, is there a Notion server for this project where we can
Yes, there is.
combine all our sources?
Yes. Let me just, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put that in. I'll pin that to the project problem statement channel. I was meant to do that yesterday, but something come up in work, so I forgot. My apologies. But I'll do that in a moment. not a problem. And yeah, if you do record your meetings, you can upload your video there if need be. You don't necessarily have to put it on YouTube, but it's just good reference. And I think I think the video storage is about 1 gigabyte, so usually you can get them under that. I'm not 100% sure, but anyway, you can certainly do that, and I'll post that. I'll post the Notion. It might actually already be there, to be honest. Did I do that? Yes, I did. It's already there. Problem statements. It's the third bookmark. I did. I thought I was going mad, but yeah, I definitely have done that. Pranjal.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing. There's already a bookmark in there.
Yeah.
One addition. So while sharing the Google Sheet, like this is just as a session, can you add a section where people could just write down about themselves or what they've done in the past, so that we have
I mean, we've got the introduction channel. A lot of people have give us a small bio
about the Google Sheet for the task lead. So while you're choosing task lead, if you could just ask.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Past or.
Yeah. So like, right, rather than just write your name down, say like, I've got 2 years experience in computer vision or whatnot.
Or an experience in leading people or.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll put like a little bio section so you can just write some relevant research, and then I will be pretty much. I'll be grouping them into levels of experience kind of thing, and then selecting them randomly, just to give everyone an equal opportunity of being that task lead for the team. So yeah, not a problem. That can certainly be done. Cool. Okay. Is there any more questions? Let me just check that chat. Cool. Download some papers. Yeah. Okay. Sound. Yeah, Wallace. Great. If you could do that, that'd be fantastic. And share some papers and whatnot. Okay, is there any more questions before we finish up? Neville, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess this is just more of like a small suggestion for project management. On GitHub, they have a projects tab. You can maybe just create like a board, and then we can just assign like tasks and stuff, so we remember what to do for each team and you don't forget anything.
That. Yeah, cool. I will certainly do that. I'll get that onto that. I still need to invite everyone. It's quite a number of people. So I'll do that. I've put some time aside this afternoon to work through them GitHub invitations. So I'll also create a project tab as well. Not a problem. Good suggestion. But yeah, as I say, if you split into teams and you host your team calls, if you do record them, put them in the Notion, and everyone can have them as reference, especially if they can't attend for whatever reason. The organisation of those meetings are generally up to the task lead. I don't have to be involved. I will try my best to turn up, but I'm moving house. I've got a sick child and I'm busy in work as well. So if I can't get there, I'll watch the recordings back. But yeah, just decide when you want to meet in your teams whenever you feel fit to do it. And I think that's pretty much it for today. We'll meet up again on Saturday, and participants can deliver some of their research and share ideas and ask each other questions and whatnot about that research, and then we can start working on the task and start working towards a solution. Thanks everyone for coming today. Much appreciated as always. And I will make sure this is on the YouTube channel within 24 hours as always. Thanks very much everyone. Have a great day and I will see you Saturday.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.